Yeah.
All the chairs were set by somebody with a really short torso and long legs.
I'd like to call to order the meeting at 1:31. And the JPA, I think all of us know, tasked the county to convene the first meeting. And so this is, and it is the organizational meeting of the Ukiah Valley Basin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. I would like to change the agenda up a little bit, so we won't start with this roll call, but we will do it under item number 3. It seemed more appropriate for each member director to introduce themselves under that, and that way the clerk has it fully in the record who the member director is. And if your alternate is here, please also name your alternate so we can all get used to one another, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of that. So let's begin by the Pledge of the Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, so this is the introduction of directors, which will also serve as the roll call. So each member should identify themselves, also identify your alternate, and I shall begin since I'm the county's first listed. I'm Carrie Brown, and I am the representative to the GSA, and my alternate is Supervisor Dan Hamburg. He's right there. So next up, City of Ukiah.
Douglas Crane, and the alternate is Mr. Doble.
I'm Jerry Cardoza. I'm with the Millview Water Board, and I'm the president of the Upper Russian River Water Agency, and our alternate is Angela Silver. All right.
I'm Alfred White. I'm with the Russian River Flood Control and Water Conservation Improvement District, and the alternate is Tyler Rodriguez.
Okay, now we do have a whole list of action items, and I want to ask the member directors a question with this, and I can continue as the temporary chair if you all agree. Instead of taking A first, that we can go down and take B, and that would be the discussion and possible appointment of the tribal seat. Is that- Okay,
I have a
thank you.
question.
Yes, sir.
So I noticed that there's member stakeholders and there's there's member
Directors.
and there's stakeholder directors.
Correct.
So is there some distinction there?
It's the process of which, basically the process that is in the JPA and the Joint Powers Agreement. And actually, I have a copy. I can pass it to you. And it designates and goes on with language addressing that. And the first meeting of this particular body is to seat the tribal stakeholder member, director, and the agricultural stakeholder director has a longer process to go through, and we're going to further talk about that under action items. It does say in the JPA language just exactly the process you should go forward with. We don't have bylaws yet, and it'll probably be a couple of meetings before we get those and have them approved. So I'm thinking that maybe we're going to want to discuss that further and have a quicker process for the ag stakeholder
Is there any
director.
distinction in the JPA? I mean, I've read it, but it's a lot of pages and I don't have it all memorized. In terms of the capacity of either type of director. Can a stakeholder director, a member director, they're basically equivalent in terms of being eligible for
Voting?
office or for any of those things. Everything's the same at that point?
That is correct. Sarah, am I incorrect on that? But I believe that is correct.
Yes, any of the directors seating on your board are eligible for a chair, vice chair, or secretary position.
Okay, so there's no two levels of director.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of timing. Because the ag seat has a specific process, it will take a little bit more time to get them seated. Where the tribal seat just required a official letter from the tribe, so we have that ready to go now. And then, as Director Brown stated, the conversation on how to get moving on the ag seat will be addressed under the action items.
Okay, well, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yes, and actually it's on the JPA, it's under 7.3, appointment of directors. Goes on quite long there, and under 7.3.2, it does talk about the stakeholder directors. So, Ms. Duquette, we're going to go forward with item B. And do you have the letter from the tribal council?
Sarah Duquette, Mendocino County. We received a letter with a representation for the tribe from the Redwood Valley Little River Band of Pomo Indians, and their director will be Brandy Brown from Redwood Valley Tribal, and their alternate will be Sonny Elliott Jr. from the Hopland Reservation. So under your item,
It's a simple majority.
for 4B, we have a recommended action, which is to review the nominees submitted by the 6 tribes within the Ukiah Valley and appoint the tribal stakeholder director and alternate director to the board.
Okay.
Chairman, accept a motion.
We have a motion by Director Crane. Do we have a second? We have 2 seconds. Okay. So, all in favor of the tribal stakeholder members, Brandy Brown as the representative and Sonny Elliott as the alternate, say aye.
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 Please come seat yourself. And I don't know if you have an opening comment like we each had under the roll call, an acknowledgement and introduction of directors.
Good afternoon, Brandy Brown, Redwood Valley Rancheria. Representing the tribes, I personally look forward to the opportunity of working with everybody to meet the challenges of Mendocino County's water issues.
Great.
So
And I think we all know Brandy's been part of the process with the steering committee since the beginning, and we sure appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Item A, this is a discussion and possible appointment of officers. It says the board shall appoint the following officers, and first will be the chair.
Nominate.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. So, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Teasing. Thank you. I'm very honored to serve. Now we have consideration of the vice chair.
I would appoint, recommend Councilman Crane to vice chair.
I'll second that.
We have a nomination for vice chair of Director Crane, and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crane. Now, our next one is secretary. Sarah and I did have a discussion about that. Do you because you know, you would think with the title, the secretary would be the one that takes the minutes and what have you. So, Ms. Duquette,
Sarah Duquette, Mendocino County. The county did commit to calling the first and second meeting of the agency, and at those meetings we'll be providing a clerk to clerk the meetings. There has been no discussion, and eventually when we get to a later item, the board will need to provide some direction in terms of meeting locations and a calendar and what that looks like in terms of in-kind services or different types of costs of services to chair all the meetings. So essentially the secretary would be in charge of minutes. If we did have a clerk, then they would be in charge of reviewing those minutes and bringing those forward at the agenda item.
Does that mean that someone will be doing the minutes other than the person who is sitting as secretary?
that's what we're hoping will happen as we move through our agenda,
Okay.
that we may want to hire a clerk that will actually be doing the minutes as well as doing the recording, and of course we have the TV station as well, so it will be on video, but that
And-
they will not have to, they'll sign the minutes.
And they'll review the
Official.
minutes and bring the item forward.
So we need to appoint a secretary. Directors?
Any volunteers?
If I don't have to keep the minutes, I'm comfortable.
I nominate Brandy.
Yeah, I'd second that.
Okay. We have nomination of Brandy Brown as our secretary, and we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All righty. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All righty. So let us move on to item C, discussion and possible action regarding a permanent meeting location and regular meeting schedule.
This is an ideal location, I think, if it's available.
So Vice Chair Crane feels this is an ideal location if it's available, and that would probably depend on what date we select, correct?
Yes, Supervisor Brown, it definitely depends on the date, if we have a regular schedule, because more than just the Board of Supervisors meet in this room. So we have meetings on Wednesdays as well, so, and Thursdays, and Mondays, so.
That's not every Wednesday.
No, absolutely not. So,
And I was looking at, I'm not sure, but when I was looking at the agenda, it occurred to me that we were all able to make the Wednesday meetings at 1:30, like being here today. I'm not sure, is it
This is the second Wednesday of the month, right? That we've
Yes.
been doing it. If it
So-
stays at 1:30, that won't be a conflict, but my Wednesdays are starting to stack.
okay?
let me ask the clerk, when does the planning, not the planning commission, the Civil Service Commission meet? Which Wednesday do they meet?
The Civil Service Commission meets on the third Wednesday of the month.
So then if we did the second Wednesday of the month at 1:30, Nicole, then the room should be available?
I believe that's true in most cases. However, there are a few months out of the year where the North Coast Railroad Association does meet in this room on the second Wednesday of the month.
Are they videotaped?
There's also.
Then they could probably move to one of our conference rooms.
Possibly. I don't know how many people attend that meeting. Also, we have the second Thursday. I don't know how Thursday works for everyone.
Is there comment about Thursday?
Second Thursday would be okay.
Second Thursday.
Thursday's good for me. Checking.
We could check with North Coast Rail, though, if you want to keep the second Wednesday.
I think if the second
Thursday
Thursday
works?
works for Vice
Okay.
Chair Crane, then that would
Okay.
be good.
And that works for you?
It does.
Okay.
Yes.
All righty.
All right, second Thursday at 1:30 it is.
All right. Mr. Kett?
Wait a minute.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
We hope to have an ag seat,
Mm-hmm.
and the second Thursday wouldn't work for that person.
At 1:30. Do your board of directors go on more than? Well, so 1:30 would work?
Okay.
Sounds,
Sarah
Yes.
Duquette, Mendocino County. We can put that time in. Is there any idea of how frequently, if you want to do every month for the remainder of the year, or if you wanted to meet quarterly, every other month? Any idea of frequency?
I think until we get through all the work, like the bylaws, budget, all that we have to do, in my opinion, it would be monthly. So does that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think to start off with, but I would hope that we could become quarterly before too long.
And I think we can. It's just a lot on our plate right now, and to get it done, so we
Right, we
meet
have
all the
deadlines.
timelines. Yes, okay. So there is agreement that'll be monthly until we're at a point where we can go to quarterly. Yes.
Supervisor Brown, we have one conflict that Nicole just pointed out to us. The Planning Commission is having a meeting on Thursday, June 15th. That is not customary for them to do that particular Thursday. Is that right, Nicole? That is? Okay.
They're the first and the third.
So then we're okay, Nicole, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, we have a scheduled meeting for the 15th of June, don't we?
Yeah,
we
could
would have to
that.
change it if we were going to have the meeting in here.
Well,
So if we go back to the
You
8th,
know-
which is what you just said, we could do that.
That's Russia.
oh, that's right. June 8th is the Ill Russian River Commission meeting here.
Well, will it last all day?
It shouldn't. We're beginning an hour earlier at 9 a.m. instead of 10.
So could we still do 1:30 on the 8th here? Or
Would
would you like to start later on that day, just in case there's
For
a
the
problem?
public hearing, start at 2 o'clock?
We could do that.
What would work?
That'd be fine.
I'm flexible for that day, so.
So June 8th will be our public hearing.
Well, city has public budget hearings
Oh.
on the 8th.
And you know what?
You're
That's
somewhere
unusual, but-
too, so.
So why not the 15th?
I think we could do the 15th. We just can't plan on this board chamber because the planning commission could go all afternoon. The planning
Okay,
commission
so they're
has
having
this-
an extra meeting.
No, it's their third Thursday.
Oh. So maybe we can look at the city council chambers, City of Ukiah, for the public hearing? Would that work?
Maybe.
Okay.
Message now, maybe we can confirm. So when is your
Thursday,
ideal time?
The 15th.
15th?
That's the one it's scheduled.
Thursday, the
Right.
15th at 1:30.
All right, I'll find out right now.
Okay, so we could go back to this item.
Yes. Oh, okay. All right. That sounds good. Because the very next item is discussion and possible action to set a public hearing to serve as the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. So maybe as we're waiting for Mr. White to get through, see if there's something available for us, like the city chambers. Why don't we go on to C, and this is discussion and possible action regarding creation of internal committees to develop a budget, bylaws, and conflict of interest code. So directors, what's your opinion? We have, all of those are called for, and I think they're certainly important.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
I'm a guy with lots of questions.
That's all right.
So, a committee. Now, I mean, I'm not qualified to do any of these tasks. So I would count on some person as a staff person that would be carrying that ball. So if one of us is given that assignment, where do we go? Do we go back to our agency and see what staff is available there, and if they feel competent or qualified or willing to take that on, or how does that work?
I'm not quite sure. The county has been providing staff space availability and been doing, most of the staff work. And I have to look to the county CEO, who's also the director of our water agency, and her staff, which is Miss Duquette, to give me a response of how long will the county allow staff to continue working on this. And when we talk about budget, is that something maybe our assistant CEO would want to work on, or has Miss Duquette thought about it?
Ms. Duquette and I have discussed the budget, and it will be a team approach in working with the JPA on the budget. So we will do it along with our Assistant CEO, Ellen Flora.
Okay.
Regarding your question about staff time and staff resources, we have been taking it one meeting at a time. So certainly we would welcome and entertain any assistance from any other entity of this JPA.
Vice Chair Crane.
What if, instead of establishing committees at this point, we as a group, work through the general concepts, and out of that may come an idea of who among us is more adept at a particular task set. I mean, we haven't worked together before.
No.
We don't really know each other's interests or abilities. And I think it would be helpful to all of us to more clearly understand the scope, because we're essentially starting out with whole cloth. If that has merit or not, but I wanted to throw it out.
And Ms. Duquette, do you recall, because I cannot, although I do have my files here, what we discussed at the steering committee level for dues?
We discussed the dollar amount of $5,000 per agency, and in the JPA agreement, it says that the dollar amount will be determined in the bylaws, and that dollar amount will be essential to assist the county in developing a budget. Because without knowing the amount that we're collecting, it's really hard to have a budget. We can at least project dollar amounts in terms if you need staff time in terms of a clerk or meeting locations, or simple things like who's going to get the mail and how we're going to process this. There's a lot of things that we could estimate and give you a dollar amount of how much that will be on a yearly basis, but the dollar amount will be determined in the bylaws.
And, I look at conflict of interest code. There should be something that at our public hearing, because cities have them, counties have them, many public agencies have a code of conflict. So we would be able to find something and could probably bring that forward pretty quickly. And I would be willing to look for that and bring something forward on June 15th. And then as far as the budget, if everyone's okay with it, just so we have something, I can meet with our assistant CEO, the county, and get his outline of what he thinks might be a good starting budget. Ms. Angelo?
Yes, I was going to say, while we don't have a budget because we don't know how much money we're talking about, we
Right.
can certainly put together a list of expenses as to the cost of actually managing the meetings and any other activities that you would like. So, I mean, I think, overall we know that there certainly is a cost to the staff time, even just for this meeting today.
Exactly.
Of putting this together. So we could certainly do that, and I don't know when you would like that back, if you would like it back for the next meeting or not.
If that's a possibility, but I know everybody has a lot on their plate because it's budget.
Sarah and I will work on this, and we will work with Assistant CEO Flora, and we will bring you back a list of expenses.
Okay, that's good.
Thank
And
you.
then the one question I have, and Ms. Duquette, this is probably a question of you. Have we looked at any of the other GSA bylaws that are available, or are there any available?
I'm not sure that there are any available. I know that there are some that are officially recognized now as a GSA and are developing it. And I don't know if any of the other staff members from the other agencies are aware of any finalized adopted bylaws, but I can certainly do some research and see if anyone is that far along yet.
So, do you know of any? And maybe that's a question of Devin Jones, since she has looked.
The only copy that I have is from Yolo County.
Okay, so there is a copy from Yolo County. Do you have it digitally, or do you have a hard copy? What do you have?
I have it digitized. I need to make sure they've got a final. It was sort of an inside draft that was sent to me.
Oh, okay, so it's electronic, but it's not one that,
It may not be final, so we check.
okay, that sounds good. Mr. White?
So in the agenda summary here, it mentions that a complete GSA formation notice has to be put online beginning February 21st to the Department of Water Resources, Sigma portal, GSA formation notification system. Okay, so and in one of those things that needs to be put there is a copy of resolution or legal agreement forming the agency and a copy of any new bylaws, ordinances, new authorities adopted by the agency. So I imagine that any completed GSA that has gone through that process has posted it in this location. And that would be the place where bylaws that have been adopted could be found. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Sarah Duquette, Mendocino County. It's not required to have bylaws to form a GSA, but if they had them, they would upload them. So we can do a search to see if there's been any recent activity there, especially as more and more GSAs are being developed and posted daily, weekly, monthly.
So any other questions? So I think we can move forward on that particular one. And have we found out about the availability of city council chambers? Sean?
And I'm waiting, and Christine said she'll be back in the office at 2:30, and will let us know as soon as she's
Okay.
back. But she said that basically during the day, they're almost always available.
Okay, so
Thank you.
we'll come back to that. Now we'll move on with discussion and possible direction regarding development of an agency website and email address. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'm fine for the County of Mendocino on behalf of the agency to develop the official website, email address to be used.
Okay. Thank you.
What'd you think was gonna happen?
So it's an action item. I don't know if you want to do it by a motion or consensus. And actually, I'm probably making an error because there is a new law. We probably should have done roll call votes or voted with a button, like the Board of Supervisors does. But anyway, maybe we'll have Nicole, you want to do the roll call, or do you want us to use the buttons? Oh, that is true. Okay, and I do apologize. I'm just moving fast and furious here. Okay, so do I have an official motion with the recommendation authorizing the County of Mendocino on behalf of the agency to develop an official website and email address to be used for communication and noticing?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Crane, a second by Director Brown. Oh, there's two of us.
Was that funny saying that?
So anyway, roll call vote.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director White,
Aye.
Director Cardoza,
Aye.
Director Brown,
Aye.
and Chair Brown.
Aye. Okay. And thank you, County. We'll move, Mr. White. It's available. Wonderful. So we'll go back up to D. Discussion and possible action to set a public hearing to serve as the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. The board shall authorize a public hearing to be held at the June
300
15th.
Seminary.
Pardon?
300 Seminary.
300 Seminary. Meeting regarding the agency's proposal to serve as the GSA for the Ukiah Valley Basin. The board shall designate posting sites for the hearing that meet the requirements of Government Code Section 6066. Can we have that explained to us? It's just proper noticing in the newspaper.
Yes, proper noticing, and it requires 2 weeks of noticing and 1 notice per week in the paper, and also the noticing will be posted at the City of Ukiah, and we, as the county, would also post the notice.
And are the member agencies responsible for posting at their entities, their office locations, or is that not needed?
I believe it's just required at a minimum to post it at the location of the meeting and then the public noticing in the paper. But like we did for this meeting, we will include all of the noticing information to all of the member agencies so they can have it on their website or their actual building.
Okay. Pleasure of the board. And actually, we really need to go forward with this public hearing because we do have a timeline that we need to meet by June 30th in turning everything in to Department of Water Resources.
So I move to authorize a public hearing to be held during the next board meeting, June 15th at 300 Seminary Avenue,
City Council Chambers.
City Council Chambers,
300 Seminary.
to consider the agency's proposal to serve as a GSA for the Ukiah Valley Basin, and to authorize the County of Mendocino on behalf of the agency to notice the public hearing and prepare the required documentation.
I would second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please do the recall.
If I may just clarify quickly, is there a time that that meeting's set to start? I didn't hear it in the motion.
Thank you.
1:30,
That's a good time.
1:30 p.m.
Okay.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director White,
Aye.
Director Cardoza,
Aye.
Director Brown,
Aye.
Chair Brown.
Aye. Okay. Before we go to public comment, we do have directors' reports. But I'd also like to give, under the director's report, if staff has anything that they would like to put into reports, following the directors, we can hear from staff. Any director's reports?
I have nothing to report other than the already mentioned alternate. That was all. Sunny Elliott from Hopland.
Great. I would like to report something. I did go over to Sacramento and attended the Water Summit, and I think I may have talked to some of you about that, maybe mentioned it the last time. But I did was able to get some wonderful publications. Some of them are new, like A Layperson's Guide to Groundwater, Stakeholder Perspectives, Recommendations for Sustaining and Strengthening the Regional Water Management, Groundwater GSP, it's for the Sustainability Plan, Emergency Regulations Guide, and there's more. There's modeling and BMPs, water budget BMPs, hydrogeologic conceptual model BMPs, and then there was another one, Bulletin 118, and this is the interim update 2016 of the groundwater, California's groundwater. So I was told, I'm very happy to share these with anyone that would like to read them, but I'm also told that they are on Department of Water Resources website. So there are some tools here, and we should make use of them. Now, MOLCA is through, is that correct? And also, I'd like to ask 2 questions. The county of Mendocino did obtain the grant funding to have MOLCA to do the facilitation. That is over and everything's been reported out back to Department of Water Resources, or how is that? Are we through with the reporting?
Sarah Duquette, Mendocino County. Yes, the state, the grant dollars are complete. They funded the facilitation through December. Our grant with the state for groundwater funded January through April, and then DWR came back in for the remainder of work time to complete the assignment, but it's complete.
Okay. And then we had funding for one other contract, and I believe that's held by LACO.
Correct. LACO's our consultant that's working on our initial groundwater study under the Proposition 1 grant.
Okay, so that's still ongoing?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a report from LACO?
We've done
Up to the microphone, if you would, please, and put your name into the record and who you represent.
Brian Wallace, LACO. Thus far, we have done a data gap analysis, a monitoring manual for how to develop groundwater monitoring, and we're currently working on a water balance and a hydrogeologic conceptual model that are preliminary in nature, but they will be used to supplement the GSP. And we are beginning development of sustainability criteria, which can be used using the budget and using the hydrogeologic conceptual model. We can come up with a preliminary plan for how to regulate groundwater to minimize impact on surface water groundwater interaction. And we should have a presentation in July for the development of the water budget and hydrogeologic conceptual model.
Okay, thank you. I would like to go back, although it's not an action item because it's not on the agenda, but Ms. Duquette, could you talk to us about our options with the agricultural stakeholder director's seat?
Yes. Sarah Duquette, Mendocino County. There's 2 sections of the JPA, both in Article 7. Article 7.1 lays out the criteria of what you need to meet to become an agricultural stakeholder. In 7.32, it's how we appoint it. And it requires that nominees shall be submitted to the member directors pursuant to a process specified in the bylaws unless directed otherwise by the member directors. So we would, you need to provide some direction if you would like to come up with an interim process to bring on an ag seat as you're developing the bylaws, or if you wanted to wait till the bylaws are complete. So depending on what you want to do, that could be an item for discussion at the next meeting on the process you want specified. That way the Mendocino County Farm Bureau can submit the nominees.
Okay. So under potential directors, stakeholder directors, do you have any comment to that?
Ross Pauley, Mendocino County Farm Bureau President. Farm Bureau has begun the process of identifying potential ag seat directors who qualify under the JPA, and have begun the process of vetting that list so that we can provide this group with 3 nominees as quickly as possible. I was not aware that it would be possible to do that before the bylaws were created. If that is the case, we hopefully by next meeting would have our 3 nominees ready, and could move forward without the bylaws. If the bylaws are necessary for that to take place, then I don't know what the timeline really is for the creation of the bylaws. But the good news is we're hopefully we'll be ready with 3 nominees whenever those are asked for.
Okay. Ms. Duquette?
I would suggest at the next meeting, the board of directors specifies the process of how you're going to review them, how they're going to be submitted. That way, in July, we can bring the director on. So that could be an item where you formalize the interim process to bring on an ag seat as you develop the bylaws, because the last section of the sentence just says unless directed otherwise by the member directors. So there would need to be an item and a motion for an interim process or an alternate process.
So I guess you and I together will be developing the next agenda for June 15th to accommodate the public hearing, but as well, we need to have, I think there were 3 or 4 items we talked about today. So can we have that discussion and have it legally posted for June 15th? Okay. Yes, sir.
Would it be possible to have that discussion that we would have to enable the seating of an ag representative sooner rather than later at this next meeting, act on it, and seat the person?
Yes, I think that I'd like to see at least the discussion, and it would take an action of this board. Under director's reports, I think.
If the Mendocino County Farm Bureau could provide a letter with the nominees and how they meet the criteria and submit that to the agency and address it to the chair, then we might be able to act on it at the next meeting. Because if you adopt a process and then are able to act on that process to review the nominees, we would probably want to give some detail to Farm Bureau to make sure that in their letter everything that we need to know is provided.
Pursuant to the JPA agreement.
Yes.
Any other director comments on this particular issue? Okay, thank you. It's that time on the agenda where we have public expression, and that's items not on the agenda, but basically we've gone through the agenda. So if you have input, please come forward, state your name for the record. We'd love to hear it. All righty. Seeing no one coming forward. Oh, Mr. White.
I
Director White.
can't keep quiet.
That's okay.
I just want to say that this agenda and the agenda summary and the way it's put together is great. I don't know if you did that.
Now that the board is officially seated, the county will send out a template to all of your agencies. So if you'd like to submit an agenda item, you can fill out the form and send it back to the county.
Yeah, I mean, this was so helpful just for me when going through the agenda and reading the summaries and recommended actions and backgrounds. It's just like really good. I really appreciate it.
I agree.
And that's Miss Duquette and Miss Nicole.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
because
you
they're
both.
actually Nicole is used to doing that for Board of Supervisors agendas, and Sarah just said, okay. All righty. Then we're adjourned. Thank you very much. First meeting.